The place where I live is called Flatland. From my house, you can see the sun setting in Kansas, and I know that the people out there in the plains would have to stop to catch their breath on the uphill walk from my mailbox to my front door, but where I live, it is called Flatland. This is called perspective. My mother grew up in the backwoods of Oregon in a house her father built with cracked carpenter hands. She ran wild through forests and streams, found a rusted nail sticking up from a rotted board, thought herself a jewelry box ballerina, so she put her foot on it and spun. These days, she's in the suburbs, stubs her toe, and reacts with all the fury and chaos of a wild animal. It is all about perspective. She sits across from me now, under a single light, separated by a kitchen table. To most people, a kitchen table is a place to gather family and friends. To us, it is another place to pile papers, the things you don't want to deal with yet. I hear the electricity catch in her veins, catch in her throat, when she draws in a ragged breath and says, "I love him, of course." Head falls into hands. It is so much work to stay, but she is too exhausted to take on the leaving. This is where we start calling mountains foothills. We don't want to admit we are out of breath. This time, I'm with my father, separated again by a table. We operate best when there is 3 feet of laminated wood between us. Food is not something to bring us together, but rather something to fill space when conversation runs dry. He sighs and says, "I like your mother." We hit the speed bump at 50 miles per hour. Shock absorbers kick in, he says, "Really?" And I am grateful for the food. This is where we start calling foothills flatland. We move through the thin air and laugh at those who call it altitude. We pronounce it home. For all the things I choose to ignore, the one thing I can't is that I have not been child to mother and father since before I stopped wearing purple shoestrings. Daughter is not a word into which I fit with ease. I am satellite, transmitting messages between people in 2 completely separate locations who insist that they are living at the same plotted point. I am marriage counselor at 18, 17, 16, 12 years old, wondering why Dad doesn't come home anymore, wondering why Dad even bothers to come home at all. I am teacher, counselor, interpreter, buffer, tether, anchor, friend. I am versatile, everyone's everything, but no one's daughter, I am sure. This poem would break my parents' hearts. My father's because nothing is wrong and I am a fool to think so. My mother's because I wasn't supposed to say anything. The street where I live is called Flatland, 6,000 feet above sea level, carved into the ribcage of a mountain, Flatland. But from my place in the sky as my satellite self, everything is Flatland. This is called perspective. It's all about perspective.